Welcome to the Geek Contingent.
This show is rated for mature audiences only.
Now, your hosts.
Welcome to the Geek Contingent, your weekly roundup of the biggest news in the world of geek. This episode was recorded on March 15th to be released on March 20th for streaming and download via our website, thegeekcontingent.com, and over at iTunes. I'm Alex, and joining us again this week are Brandon and Gavin, our audio engineer. Unfortunately, Mark isn't feeling very well this week, so we've demanded that he rests, so he won't be joining us this week, but we do all wish him really well. Say hello, guys.
Yo!
Hello!
How's everyone doing? What about yourself, Brandon?
I am good. Another crazy week full of so much stuff. Oh my gosh. School, work, gym, podcasting. What else? Chorus. Yeah, it's been nonstop, but it's good. It's like my days have purpose and meaning and they're full and yeah, overall good. Awesome progress going on my secret project that I'm working on. I can't wait to share more information about it. Should only be a couple more weeks.
Oh, I hope so, because you keep on teasing us with this. I can't wait for it.
I know. I can't either. It's a dream come true, so I really can't wait to share about it. But we got to announce it first, and then I can announce it here.
Looking forward to it. What about yourself, Gav? How's your week been?
It's been interesting. I have had a lot of detailed reporting and technical stuff to do with our upcoming project in work, and it's been very stressful. And I did lose the plot in work last Saturday and threw a box of unprinted tickets at a colleague.
Fun.
Probably not good. Well, yeah, it's the first time I've ever lost it in work. And like, ever. You know, I'm a bit embarrassed about it. I did apologise. He was fine. I was fine. But I was very stressed.
Oh, we've all been there. Well, I have anyway. I've thrown ring binders and monitors at managers.
Oh, I bet that would hurt.
I missed. It's alright, I throw like a girl. Yeah, so pretty good weeks all round then, guys, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly.
I had another hell of a week. It's just been... I just want this month over with. I had the hellish weekend of server farms, DCs, whatever you want to call them, collapsing down, so that was a fun weekend. But hey, so I had no personal time for the last week.
At least we've all had a better week than Mark, bless him.
Yeah, the poor soul.
I know. I hope he gets better soon. Well, before we jump into the meat of this show, I wanted to give you a quick recap on the biggest geek news headlines from this past week. Game of Thrones teaser trailer was released. Y'all see that?
Yes! Cannot wait!
Me either, because I don't watch it yet, but so I don't want to get teased on what's happening. But it also looks like Valve is changing things up on Steam again. So if you got a game during one of Valve's free promotional weekends or as a gift from a friend, and then you review it no longer counts towards its overall score. Kind of interesting. So you got to purchase it to actually get to review it. There's a new Wonder Woman trailer. Aladdin live action movie is going to start filming this summer. Avatar 2 is announced that it's delayed, so it's no longer due out in 2018. And right now, and maybe by the time you're hearing this it will still be going, but the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers marathon is going on Twitch, and they are putting all 831 episodes back to back. It started yesterday, Tuesday the 14th, and there was so much nostalgia from as I was watching it in the background while I was working today, and man, I remember all my Megazord toys and how fun those were.
Are they including all of the really early stuff from when we were kids?
Oh yeah, it started with the first episode.
So every single iteration they are playing everything.
831 episodes. That's it. It's every single series.
It's just amazing
and cringeworthy.
Yeah, and it's all leads up into the new movie coming out next month.
I have to say that new movie looks awesome. I was never a massive Power Rangers fan, but that film actually looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks great, and it was revealed that Bryan Cranston is actually playing Zordon, which is pretty cool. But Alex, why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about this week?
This week in the Geek Contingent, we'll be talking about recent news from outer space, Paramount Disney UK Resort, and a recap about last week's PAX East convention. Finishing that, we'll head over to answer your questions and comments from last week's show.
Let's get to it.
So for this week, one of the topics I wanted to bring up was actually like a roundup on the biggest space news that came out this week. Something really cool that I think happened was two things around women in space. The first thing, NASA put out a Women of NASA Lego set, which is really cool. This is supposedly just the first set, and it commemorates Sally Ride, who was the first American woman in space, Mae Jemison, who was the first African-American woman in space. So also joining them, scientist Margaret Hamilton, mother of Hubble Nancy Grace Roman, and mathematician and physicist Katherine Johnson. Also, celebrating her 80th birthday was the first woman to go to space, which was Valentina Tereshkova, if I said that right, part of the Soviet Union space program, and she was actually played a pretty integral role in the Soviet Union getting to space. And according to Soviet officials, in 1963, the mission was successful, but a few years ago, Tereshkova came forward with information about a potential technical issue that actually could have left her up in space all alone with no way to get back home. Also, come July 2020, half a dozen rockets from around the world are going to be preparing to launch an armada of rovers, landers, orbiters, and other vehicles on their way to Mars in an attempt to learn more about our neighbor and the potential life that it could have had. The reason why this is happening is because there is a 20-day launch window that opens up about every 26 months when the Earth and Mars are favorably aligned. Some of the organizations that are going to be launching during this time include NASA, Europe, India, China, United Arab Emirates, and SpaceX. So it'll be pretty interesting to see. We've got a few years to go until then, but I'm super excited to learn more about it. Also, as this year's Great American Total Solar Eclipse approaches, NASA scientists are commemorating the total solar eclipse from March 1970. So just this year is celebrating its anniversary, and that was a big occasion. And there hasn't been a total solar eclipse in America since. So some really cool news in space, in the space realm of things. But question for you guys: would either of you ever take a one-way trip to Mars? I know there was you could go sign up on a website if you were interested and actually head out there, and you could sign up for a one-way trip. But would either of you actually take it up?
Ooh, one way. Can I bring Riley?
Let's say yes.
In that case, yeah, definitely. I give up on this Earth. It's doomed.
Okay, so yes, I would absolutely go, because it's an opportunity to, first of all, go where literally no one has gone before. And you would be the Neil Armstrong of this generation, and what a thing to achieve, even if it's the end of your life, effectively. What a thing to do.
I think for me, my biggest issue would be the latency. Couldn't really play the games that I want to play online, and probably even help host this podcast. So, what about a solar eclipse? Have either of you seen a solar eclipse?
I have. There was one in the UK a couple of years ago. I think the North American continent missed out on it. Did you see that one, Alex?
I remember seeing a couple when I was really young, one a few years back up when I was living in Edinburgh on Carlton Hill. I can't honestly remember when it was. I remember almost going blind though.
I think and I may have been mistaken, I don't know if 1970 total solar eclipse was the last one in America, but I remember in second grade, so that had to have been 91, maybe 91. There was a almost total solar eclipse when I was living in Los Angeles, and I was in school and we were told to stay inside, like we were not allowed outside. So I actually didn't get to see it, which was such a bummer, because they're afraid like the students would just look up at it and there wasn't enough protocol around it. But I remember we all were looking out the window and it got dark, and that was pretty amazing. But only seen partial since then, and nothing where the sky got too dark. So I'd love to see a total solar eclipse though.
I was really lucky, because the one we had in the UK a few years ago was only a total eclipse in the southern regions, and down here in the southwest it was really amazing, and it was the first one I've seen in my adult life where I could really comprehend and understand what I was looking at. And the clouds parted for just the right amount of time, in just the right direction, for me to use my telescope with a solar filter and get some really nice, eyeballing of the last little bit of sunlight passes between some mountains on the edge of the moon, and you get that little bright point. It was amazing.
Well, I think we can all agree that space is probably the biggest amusement park in the universe. But I think we actually have some news about an amusement park on our little rock we call home, right, Alex?
Yeah, so there's been some really interesting news that the UK is set to get a Disney-style theme park opening within the next 5 years. Kent Live, sort of local broadcasting organisation, has reported that Paramount Entertainment Resort London will have plans for the project sent to the government for approval in November. The company's confident these are going to get approved. The park won't actually be based in London, though, given its name, but just slightly outside North Kent, so not too far out. It's hoping to attract an estimated 400,000 visitors a day across 50 themed attractions, spread across Paramount, the BBC, and Aardman Animations, the makers of Wallace and Gromit. The £3.5 billion park is being heralded as the UK's Disneyland. So imagine visiting a theme park where rides are based on films such as Indiana Jones, Star Trek, Iron Man. Yes, Iron Man, the first movie was distributed by Paramount, while others are based on shows like Doctor Who, Wallace and Gromit, and so forth. So it's just got me really thinking, what would be an amazing attraction, ride, roller coaster, say from any of the Paramount sort of intellectual properties or the BBC's or Aardman Animations?
Well, I think like we've seen at Disney, they've done a really great job with Star Wars, and space franchises offer an opportunity to explore something that we can't explore here on our planet. And if it's done right, it could be a really great experience. Like imagine like being able to beam up and walk on the bridge of sets, and kind of, I don't know if you ever heard about that experience in Las Vegas that there used to be for Star Trek, but I think that could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely think with the dawning of real easy approachable VR, AR sort of scenarios, the possibilities of what you can do for games are no longer have to be ride on roller coaster kind of style of things. And some of the properties that Paramount own and the BBC stuff and the rest, like Doctor Who for one, as an avid Whovian, you know what I mean, some of the storylines in there, wow, you know what I mean, just time and space travel alone. Have a whole section just that you can travel back in time and do some weird wonderful tours. What about the Star Trek ride? How do you think they would base that kind of thing?
It would have to be the Kobayashi Maru.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, like a proper simulator. You go in, you take command, and you try and figure out how to beat the Kobayashi Maru. That would be amazing. Whether or not the general public en masse would, A, get the reference, and B, actually enjoy that, I don't know. But that's what I would like to do.
You're on planet Earth, and you walk into this room that's a transporter, and you're transported up onto a ship, or you take a shuttlecraft that goes up to a station that's orbiting Earth, and then you get on a starship, and you get to walk through the bridge, and you can go to 10 forward in the galley. Replicators, that would be awesome. Like some way to have, obviously you wouldn't be able to materialize right in front of you, but maybe they had a small selection so things were automatically ready, and like it just like appeared, like I don't know, that'd be pretty sweet.
Probably easy enough to do with smoke and mirrors and fairground tricks. That sort of thing has been around for a long time. So yeah, that would be good. Like a real life tour as best they can do it, right?
I think anything's almost within reach. I just had a really amusing, interesting thought. With the BBC being involved, at least they could easily theme the bars and the pubs. The pub could be called the Queen Vic, the local eatery, Cath's Calf.
No.
Joke lost on you, possibly, Brandon. Sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Paramount also owns the Nickelodeon movies franchise, and so that'd be good for the kids who want to come. They'd be able to get a lot out of it that, the adults would be able to enjoy, like the Indiana Jones stuff and Star Trek and things like that.
Some of the stuff they've got their hands on or the rights to is unbelievable, so it's really going to be one to watch and see what they come up with. Could possibly be the first big meetup for Geek Contingent fans and hosts alike.
I like your idea, Alex, about the meetup. I think we should just throw that out there, that our first meetup is going to be there.
We've got 5 years to organise it. I'm sure we can do it.
It probably won't be open for a decade anyways.
Well, British red tape. They're hoping it will get approved, but you never know.
Do you think that their assertion of 400,000 visitors a day is a little optimistic?
I suppose it depends on how big it is, how much innovation they really throw in it as to what they'll be able to sustain, how much changes regularly. If they go down the lines of a sort of VR style of things or augmented reality, they could quite easily change up the rides and keep people coming back locally or from around the UK easy enough. They might be able to sustain a reasonable number. I wouldn't imagine at that level, but you never know.
Well, Disneyland only gets, I think, 44,000 people a day, if this data is accurate.
Hey, when I looked at the figures, I did think maybe someone had typed an extra zero. But that's what
Yeah.
was reported, so we'll stick with it for now and hold them to it. There was some speculation around the ticket price, which raised an eyebrow for me, roughly talking around £57 a ticket per head.
Well, Disneyland's over $100 now, so that wouldn't be surprising.
Maybe it's just the Scotsman in me, but I'm like, whoa, that's far too much money.
Well, yeah.
We're notoriously tight.
It would have to be very good to attract repeat custom at that price.
It would eat into too much of your tea and crumpet funds.
Or lager and crisps.
Toast and Marmite.
Or more accurately, Iron Brew.
Ugh.
Ooh, yummy.
From Paramount Resorts London, supposedly, to PAX East. Brandon, I believe you've been keeping some tabs on this one.
Yep, PAX East just wrapped up. A fun weekend of stuff going on. So it was last weekend. We're recording this right now on Wednesday, the 15th. But over this past weekend, we had a lot of stuff announced, which was pretty cool, and a lot of stuff being shown off. So there's one game that was shown off by an Australian company who makes VR games, aptly titled The American Dream, that gives you guns for hands. As if we didn't have enough problems already. Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer shown off, as well as a lot of hands-on stuff for that. There's a lot of big hype around that coming out. Telltale, who is known for their Walking Dead games, announced a Guardians of the Galaxy game, so it's going to get the Telltale style. Multiplayer Quake is making return. That's some pretty big news for Quake fans out there. But a big emphasis was actually put on indie games, which we've seen, for the last few years, an uptick in the kind of visibility of them. So really cool. They had an indie mega booth that was a hit. But do you guys follow any of the big game trade shows news out there?
I sometimes do. It depends what the subject matter itself is. I'm not particularly interested in role-playing games. I prefer open world type stuff, MMOs, things like that, and sometimes those don't get as much attention as the latest Battlefield or the latest Gears of War, things like that.
I mean, for me, I don't follow them a huge amount. Like, gaming is a new thing for me. You guys really opened my eyes to it, and I've only recently started playing. I've always been more of a movie, TV kind of geek style of things, so it's definitely something I've started to look at, started to follow the Twitter feeds of and see, but I've not really got to the stage of properly following in.
Yeah, I pretty much just keep up with the recaps myself, but now, especially now that I'm out of the game industry, kind of, yeah. Actually, yeah. When I announce the project, that would make sense. But Alex, you talked about you just started playing games. Has there anything else been kind of put on your radar now that you've been playing some more games that you think you might try and pick up?
Nothing as of yet. I've unfortunately not had much of a chance to play anything this week, but I've been looking for suggestions from people. So if anyone does have any games they could recommend to play.
What about you, Gavin? Is there any games you're looking forward to?
I'm always on the lookout for news about any upcoming Assassin's Creed, but they took a break from that this year because of the production of the movie, and they wanted to take a step back and reevaluate the whole premise. But so it's that kind of open world stuff that I really dig. But for me, I'm still looking into the mysteries of Grand Theft Auto 5, and there is still a really big presence on the internet, on YouTube, on Twitch, of people who are still trying to solve the mountain mystery, the jetpack mystery, and the UFO mystery. And the game's been out for 4 years. It's amazing.
Well, you mentioned Assassin's Creed. Would you say that's your favorite game of all time?
Ooh.
If not, what is?
It's my favorite on the sofa with my partner, beer and pizza game.
Okay.
If you know what I mean, like nice and relaxed. It doesn't really matter, you can take it seriously. You don't have to take it seriously. But my favorite game, that's a hard question to answer. If we go all the way back to the very beginning of my gaming history and include everything, probably multiplayer Unreal Tournament.
Okay, all right. Alex, do you have a favorite game?
Still do.
I think mine would have to be Uncharted 2, but my favorite scene or level from a video game is Uncharted 3, and I think we're well past spoiler points, but there is a scene in Uncharted 3 where you're on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship capsizes, and the whole level turns upside down, and the way they handled that was just incredible. And I like cruises. So that was kind of fun. So this week, Orange wrote into us and said it's important to note that Nintendo may have a bigger scope for the Switch than we think, and provided a YouTube link to a video that talks about a theory behind Nintendo's big secret of success they have for it. Possibly VR, AR stuff, perhaps? Gavin, you had some thoughts on this.
Yes, I just watched most of the video, and it looks like they are talking about a technology where they can integrate a virtual reality headset for the display and use the two Joy-Cons that come with the Switch and their HD Rumble feature to simulate the feel and inertia and motion of real-world objects. So you could pick up something. The Joy-Con can kind of replicate-ish the feel of it. You could throw it to another player in the game and see that object being thrown in virtual reality space, and then when your other player catches it, they would be able to feel that in their Joy-Con. It would suddenly become more not more heavy. It would start to generate like a gyroscopic effect, so it has some extra weight to it. It's quite a clever system, actually, and it's possibly the next step on from just a visual based virtual and augmented reality world. So yeah, looks interesting.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, that's super cool. I don't know if you guys heard, but the Pro controller for the Switch has a secret hidden message inside it. Have you heard about that?
I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just a little thing painted under the translucent covering that you can see through that says, "Thanks to all game fans," like THX2 all game fans. That's pretty cool.
So I know you spoke about the Switch last week, Brandon. Have you been keeping up with the news about it since its release? And what are your thoughts on the problems that people have been experiencing with the unit?
I haven't been keeping up, and I haven't heard about the problems, but tell me, because I was probably going to buy one this weekend.
Okay, so I'm not going to use the words a lot or many, but a percentage of people, and it's not insignificant, judging by the sheer number of videos on YouTube, comments on Reddit, things like that, are experiencing things like the left Joy-Con loses sync, and you have to get much closer to the unit itself for it to resync, and people are talking only a couple of meters here. It can be an issue for some people. There are also some quality control issues with the dock, which is actually scratching the surround of the screen when you're putting it in and out, and people have been coming up with solutions like taping little bits of rubber or felt to the inside grooves of the dock, so that as you slide it in, it doesn't scratch the screen surround. There have been orange screens of death, blue screens of death, beeps of death, and
beeps of death.
Yeah, beeps of death. There's quite a few YouTube videos where, and it's quite old school in a way, the unit will be happily playing their game, and then the screen starts going really sketchy and sort of pixelated, and then it starts making beeps that sound quite a lot like old dial-up modems, and then it just stops.
Are you talking sort of BIOS level beeps of breakdown and death?
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what it sounds like. But on the other side of things, somebody has already hacked the Switch to allow the built-in web browser to be used as an actual fully fledged web browser and not just for specific Nintendo-only shop/social pages. So that's pretty cool. It was hacked within a week of release, which is, you go back 10 years and that was unheard of, but now it's becoming pretty common.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's been quite turbulent, and I think that Nintendo have been getting a lot of flack for the problems that people have been seeing, but when you consider how many units they have probably shipped and sold since release, it's probably a very small percentage, and probably no more than any other console or big device gets whenever they're released as well.
Yeah, and hopefully nothing that can't be solved with a software update.
Hopefully.
You only ever hear the bad in a product launch, really, to be honest. People go mad and go screaming on, take to Twitter, take to the likes and scream and shout. Majority of people who are just happy with it won't say much, so it's never a true reflection. Well, this wraps up episode 4 of the Geek Contingent. We thank you for joining us for the 4th episode. Remember, there's lots of ways to get in touch. Send us a tweet to @GeekContingent and drop us a like and comment on Facebook, facebook.com/Geek Contingent.
You can also email us at incoming@thegeekcontingent.com, or why don't you head over to the website and comment on the post for this show at thegeekcontingent.com/ep4. That's EP and the number 4. But before we finish up, want to give a shout out and thank you to you, Gavin. Thanks for joining us. And our TeamSpeak assistant, Jesse, for their skills for putting the recorded and live show together.
But mostly we want to thank you for listening and joining us for episode 4. So we'll see you next week, and until then, keep it geek.
You've been listening to the Geek Contingent. Tune in again next week for more news, reviews, and opinions on all things geek.
What the heck was that?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay.
Shut up, Wesley.
Facebook.com/Geek Contingent.
You can also email us. Forward stroke.
I was going to say, can you say / because forward stroke is something completely different.
I like a bit of stroking.
Oh, there's one blooper for the week.
Shut up, Wesley.
There was one interesting game called The American Dream, aptly titled. It's being created by an Australian company, and it's a VR game that gives you hands for guns. Wait, sorry.
I'm sorry, I could not push the top button when you said that.
I'm sorry, let me start that over.